that had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years. Every species in the known universe understood this simple truth. They were the strongest, they were the deadliest, they were the ultimate survivors. Commander stood on the bridge of his warship, the Iron Claw, and looked out at the stars. His body was covered in black armor that grew naturally from his skin. His claws could cut through metal. His eyes could see in complete darkness. He was 9 feet tall and weighed as much as 3 humans combined. But did not know what a human was, not yet. His science officer approached him with a data tablet in her clawed hands. She was smaller than, but still massive by most species standards. Her armor was dark green, marking her as a member of the scientific caste. "Commander," she said, "we have detected a new signal from the galactic rim. It appears to be from a species we have not encountered before." Turned to look at her. His eyes were yellow with black slits in the center. "Another primitive civilization." "Most likely," replied. "Their technology is basic. They have only recently achieved faster-than-light travel. There is classified as a Category 7 on the danger scale." Made a sound that was similar to laughter. It was Category 12. It was the most dangerous planet ever recorded. The gravity was crushing. The rain was acid. The air itself could kill most species in minutes, and the predators hunted in groups of hundreds. That was why they were supreme. They had evolved on a world that tried to kill them every single day. They had become death itself to survive. "Category 7, repeated. "A vacation world. What could possibly live there that would interest us?" "They call themselves humans," said. "They come from a planet called Earth." Far away, on a small blue planet orbiting an ordinary yellow star, Captain Ho Park was preparing for the most important mission in human history. The exploration vessel Horizon floated in orbit above Earth. It was not a large ship. It was not a powerful ship. But it was humanity's first true starship, capable of traveling between the stars in days instead of centuries. Ho stood in his small cabin and looked at a photograph on his desk. It showed his family back in Seoul, his mother, his father, his younger sister. They were all smiling. They did not know if they would ever see him again. There was a knock on his door. "Come in," he said. Lieutenant entered. She was his second in command, a brilliant officer who had graduated at the top of her class. She was calm and careful, which balanced Ho's tendency to take risks. "Captain," she said, "the crew is assembled. We're ready to depart on your order." Ho nodded. "How is everyone feeling?" Paused before answering. Excited, nervous, terrified. She allowed herself a small smile. The usual feelings before doing something that has never been done before. Ho laughed softly. "That sounds about right." He picked up the photograph and looked at it one more time. Then he placed it carefully in his pocket and walked out of his cabin. The bridge of the Horizon was small but functional. 6 crew members sat at their stations, monitoring systems, checking calculations, preparing for the jump. Jin Lee sat at the security station. He was a combat specialist, trained in every form of warfare humanity had developed. He was quiet and serious, with scars on his hands from years of martial arts training. Was at the medical station. She was the ship's doctor, responsible for keeping everyone alive. She had warm eyes and a gentle manner, but Ho knew she was tougher than she looked. Wu Bin worked at the engineering console. He was young and enthusiastic, always excited about new technology. He treated the ship's engines like they were his children. Ho took his seat in the captain's chair. "Status report." "All systems are functional," Wu Bin reported. "The jump drive is charged and ready." "Navigation is locked," another officer confirmed. "Destination is the system, approximately 40 light-years from Earth." Ho looked at his crew. These were the first humans who would travel beyond their own solar system. Whatever happened next, they would be remembered forever. "Let's make history," he said. "Engage the jump drive." The The stars outside the window stretched into lines of light. Reality folded around the ship. And then, suddenly, they were somewhere else. The system was beautiful. 3 planets orbited a bright orange star. One of the planets was blue and green, similar to Earth. "We made it," whispered. "We actually made it." But their celebration was cut short. "Captain," Jin said suddenly, "I'm detecting another vessel. It's large, very large, and it's heading directly toward us." A shape appeared. It was a warship covered in black metal spikes, shaped like a massive claw reaching through space. It was the Iron Claw. Commander looked at the tiny human vessel on his screen and felt nothing but amusement. The ship was so small, so fragile, it looked like something they used for transporting food. "Open a communication channel," he ordered. When the channel connected, saw the humans for the first time. They were small, soft. They had no armor, no claws, no visible weapons. They looked like prey animals. "I am commander of the Imperial Fleet," he said. "You have entered space controlled by the Galactic Council. Identify yourselves." Ho looked at the alien on his screen. The creature was terrifying, massive, armored, clearly designed for killing, but Ho did not let his fear show on his face. "I am Captain Ho Park of the United Nations Space Command," he replied. "We are explorers from the planet Earth. We come in peace." Tilted his head. The translation software was working well, but the words seemed strange. Peace. What kind of species talked about peace when meeting a superior force? "Your species is unknown to us," said. "You will be brought before the Galactic Council for evaluation. Do not resist, or you will be destroyed." Ho looked at. She shook her head slightly, warning him not to argue. They were one small ship against a warship that could destroy them in seconds. "We understand," Ho said. "We will cooperate." Ended the communication and turned to. "Prepare to tow their vessel. We will bring these humans to Apex Prime. The Council will enjoy seeing these soft little creatures." Nodded, but something bothered her. She looked at the scans of the human ship again. Something in the data did not make sense. "Commander," she said slowly, "the atmosphere inside their ship, it contains high levels of oxygen." "So?" "Oxygen is highly corrosive and flammable. Most species cannot breathe it without dying." Paused. "These humans breathe it naturally." Considered this for a moment. Then he dismissed it. Breathing poison did not make a species powerful, it just made them strange. He did not realize that he was about to learn how wrong he was. As the Iron Claw towed the horizon toward the center of the galaxy, Ho sat in his chair and thought about what was coming. He did not know what the Galactic Council was. He did not know who they were or why they were so confident. But he knew one thing about humanity. They had survived ice ages. They had survived wars. They had survived diseases that killed millions. They had survived everything their planet had thrown at them. They would survive this too. Sat down beside him. "What do you think is going to happen?" Ho looked out at the stars passing by. "I think they're underestimating us. Everyone always does." Nodded slowly. "I hope you're right." In the depths of the Iron Claw, prepared his report for the Council. He described the humans as weak, soft, and primitive. He recommended that they be classified as a minor species, unworthy of concern. He had no idea that he was looking at the most dangerous creatures in the galaxy. The journey to Apex Prime would take 3 days. In that time, everything believed about strength and weakness would begin to change. But that story was just beginning. Apex Prime was the largest space station in the galaxy. It floated at the center of known space, a massive structure of metal and glass that housed millions of beings from hundreds of different worlds. This was where the Galactic Council met. This was where the fate of civilizations was decided. The Horizon, still attached to the Iron Claw, arrived at the station on the 3rd day. Ho and his crew looked out their windows at the enormous structure and felt very small. "It's beautiful," whispered. It's intimidating, Jin corrected. That's the point. Commander had already sent his report ahead. The council knew that humans were coming. They were curious. A new species was always interesting, especially one that breathed poison and came from such a strange little world. The human delegation was escorted to a large chamber in the center of the station. Ho, Jin, and Wu Bin walked together, surrounded by guards who towered over them. The chamber was circular, with seats rising in levels all around a central platform. Representatives from 47 different species sat watching. Some had tentacles, some had wings, some looked like insects, others like plants. The variety was overwhelming. And in the highest seat sat the commander. Took his place among them, looking down at the humans with cold yellow eyes. The council speaker was a tall, thin being with silver skin and 4 arms. His name was unpronounceable in human languages, so the translation software called him the speaker. He raised one of his hands for silence. "We are gathered to evaluate a new species," the speaker announced. "They call themselves humans. They come from a planet called Earth. Commander of the has brought them before us." Murmurs spread through the chamber. Species leaned forward to get a better look at the small, soft creatures standing on the platform. "As is customary," the speaker continued, "the new species will undergo standard evaluations to determine their classification within the galactic hierarchy." Ho stepped forward. "We are honored to be here. We hope to establish peaceful relations with all members of the council." The speaker nodded politely, but there was no real interest in his eyes. Peaceful relations were for equals. The tests would determine if humans deserved such consideration. The first test was atmospheric tolerance. Was led to a chamber with adjustable environmental controls. A scientist explained that they would expose her to various atmospheric conditions to determine human survival limits. "We will start with reduced oxygen," the scientist said. Smiled. "Actually, we can survive with much less oxygen than we normally breathe. Our ancestors lived in high mountains where the air was thin." The scientist looked confused but proceeded with the test. Sat calmly as the oxygen level dropped lower and lower. She showed no distress. When the level reached what would kill most species, she simply took slower, deeper breaths. "Interesting," the scientist muttered. Next was temperature. Was exposed to extreme cold, then extreme heat. She shivered in the cold and sweated in the heat, but she survived both. Her body adjusted. It regulated itself. "Your species has remarkable thermal regulation," the scientist admitted. Shrugged. "We evolved in a world where temperatures change constantly. We had to adapt." The tests continued: pressure tolerance, radiation resistance, toxin exposure. At each stage, the scientists expected humans to fail. At each stage, humans proved stronger than they looked. But the test that truly shocked the council was the nutrition evaluation. Wu Bin was asked to demonstrate how humans consumed energy. He had brought samples of human food from the horizon: rice, vegetables, meat, coffee. The scientist, analyzing the food, stumbled backward in horror. "This meat," she gasped, "it is dead animal flesh. You eat other creatures." "Yes," Wu Bin said simply. "We are omnivores. We eat plants and animals." "And this liquid?" The scientist pointed at the coffee with a trembling appendage. "It contains caffeine. This is a neurotoxin, a stimulant drug." Wu Bin picked up the cup and took a long drink. "We call it coffee. Most humans drink it every morning." The chamber erupted in shocked conversations. Species that ate only synthesized nutrients stared at the humans with new eyes. These creatures consumed poison for breakfast. But Commander was not impressed. He stood up from his seat and raised his clawed hand for attention. "Enough of these games," he said loudly. "Surviving bad air and eating dead flesh does not make a species powerful. The true measure of strength is combat ability." The speaker looked uncertain. "Commander, The standard evaluations do not include combat testing for new species. Then we should make an exception, said. I propose a ceremonial duel, my challenge against one of their warriors, non-lethal of course, simply to assess their potential. He looked down at the humans with a smile that showed all his sharp teeth. Unless they are afraid. Ho felt his crew tense beside him. Jin took a step forward, but Ho put a hand on his shoulder. You don't have to do this, Ho said quietly. Jin's eyes were calm. I know, but if we refuse, they will think we are weak. Every species in this room will see us as prey. We cannot start our relationship with the galaxy by showing fear. He stepped onto the central platform and looked up at. I accept your challenge. The chamber buzzed with excitement. No species had accepted a combat challenge in centuries. The last one who tried had been carried out in pieces. Descended from his seat, his massive form making the platform shake with each step. He stood before Jin, looking down at the human who barely reached his chest. You are brave, admitted. Stupid but brave. I will try not to kill you, but I make no promises. Jin did not respond. He simply removed his jacket and began stretching his muscles. The arena was prepared. A circular space was cleared, surrounded by energy barriers to protect the audience. Medical teams from several species stood ready, most of them expected to collect a human corpse. Jin stood on one side of the arena. He wore simple clothes, no armor, no weapons, just his body. Stood on the other side. His natural armor gleamed under the lights, his claws extended, each one capable of cutting through steel. His tail swung behind him, tipped with a venomous spike. The speaker raised his hand. This is a ceremonial duel. The goal is to demonstrate combat ability, not to kill. However, accidents may occur. Both participants accept this risk. Jin nodded. Laughed, let us begin. The speaker dropped his hand. Fight. Moved with incredible speed. For a creature his size, he was shockingly fast. His claws slashed through the air where Jin had been standing a moment before. But Jin was no longer there. The human moved like water flowing around attacks. He did not try to block this massive strength. Instead, he redirected it. He slipped past claws that could cut him in half. He ducked under tails that could poison him instantly. The council watched in stunned silence. Attacked again and again. Each strike was powerful enough to kill. Each strike missed by the smallest margin. The humans seemed to predict where the attacks would land before they arrived. Stop running, growled. Fight me. Jin said nothing. He continued to move, continued to dodge, continued to survive. Minutes passed. Attacks became slower. His breathing became heavier. He had expected to end this fight in seconds. Instead, the human was still standing, still moving, still watching him with those calm, focused eyes. In the audience, leaned over to whisper to a shocked alien diplomat beside her. Humans are pursuit predators, she explained. We evolved to chase prey across long distances until it collapsed from exhaustion. We may not be the fastest or the strongest, but we never stop. We never give up, and we can run all day. The diplomat stared at her with wide eyes. That is terrifying. Smiled, we know. In the arena, was beginning to understand something that No had ever faced before. He was fighting a creature that refused to die. A creature that absorbed pain and kept moving. A creature that treated combat not as a sprint but as a marathon. And the marathon was just beginning. The duel had lasted 20 minutes. For most species in the arena, this was already impossible. Combat was designed to be fast and brutal. Fights lasted seconds, not minutes. The idea that any creature could survive 20 minutes against a commander was unthinkable. But Jin was still standing. Blood ran down the side of his face from a cut above his eye. One of his claws had come too close. Jin wiped the blood away with the back of his hand and kept moving. Was breathing hard now. His species was built for explosive power, for quick kills, for overwhelming strength. They were not built for endurance. On there, prey that could not be killed quickly was not worth hunting. Humans, apparently, had different rules. "Why won't you fall?" demanded. He swung his clawed arm in a wide arc. Jin dropped low, letting the attack pass over his head. He rolled to the side and came up in a defensive stance. "Because I don't need to," Jin replied calmly. Roared in frustration, he charged forward with all his remaining strength. This time, he did not try to be precise. He simply tried to crush the human with his body. Jin could not dodge completely. His shoulder caught him in the chest. The impact sent him flying across the arena. He hit the energy barrier with a sound that made the audience gasp. For a long moment, Jin did not move. The council members began to murmur. Finally, they thought, the human is finished. The natural order has been restored. But then Jin moved. Slowly, painfully, he pushed himself back to his feet. He stood on shaking legs. His left arm hung at a wrong angle. Several of his ribs were clearly broken. Every breath brought visible pain. And yet he smiled. "Is that all you have?" he asked. Stared at him with something that looked almost like fear. He had hit the human hard enough to kill most species twice over. The creature was broken, bleeding, barely able to stand. But those human eyes showed no surrender, no acceptance of defeat. Only determination. "What are you?" whispered. In the audience was already preparing her medical equipment. She knew Jin would need extensive treatment after this, but she also knew he would never quit. She had seen him train for years. She had watched him push his body past limits that seemed impossible. This was what humans did. They broke themselves and then put themselves back together stronger. The fight continued. 30 minutes, 40 minutes, an hour. The council had never seen anything like it. Some species had stopped watching, unable to handle the strange horror of what they were witnessing. A soft, fragile creature without armor or claws was refusing to die against the most dangerous predator in the galaxy. His movements had become slow and clumsy. His muscles burned with exhaustion. His heart pounded so hard he could hear it in his ears. They were built for short, intense bursts of activity. Their bodies could not sustain this level of effort. Jin moved in. For the first time in the fight, he went on the offensive. He struck its legs, targeting the joints where the armor was weakest. His fists were not powerful enough to break armor, but they could hit nerve clusters. They could disrupt balance. Stumbled, he tried to catch himself, but his body would not respond. 3,000 years of evolution had not prepared for an enemy who simply refused to stop. The great commander fell to his knees. Jin stood over him, breathing hard, body broken in a dozen places. Blood covered half his face. His left arm was useless, but he was standing. Looked up at the human with yellow eyes that had lost all their confidence. "I yield," he said. The words were quiet, almost impossible to hear. No had spoken them in recorded history. The arena fell completely silent. 47 species sat in stunned disbelief. The ultimate, the rulers of the galaxy, had been defeated by a creature that should have been dead 10 times over. Jin nodded once, then his legs finally gave out and he collapsed to the ground. And the human delegation rushed into the arena. Immediately began treating Jin's wounds, her hands moving with practiced efficiency. "You're an idiot," she told him as she worked. Jin managed a weak laugh. "Did I win?" "Yes, you won. You also have 7 broken ribs, a dislocated shoulder, internal bleeding, and a concussion. Was it worth it?" Jin looked up at the council. Hundreds of eyes stared back at him. Fear, respect, wonder. The way they looked at him had changed completely. "Yes," he said, "it was worth it." Commander remained on his knees for a long time. His second-in-command, Lieutenant, approached him carefully. "Commander," she said softly, "we should return to the ship." did not respond immediately. He was staring at the human medical officer working on Jin. The woman was calmly treating injuries that would have killed most species. She did not seem surprised or frightened. She had clearly done this before. "What kind of world produces such creatures?" asked. His voice was hollow. Had no answer. The speaker stepped forward and raised his hands for attention. The chamber slowly quieted. "The ceremonial duel has concluded," he announced. "The human representative has emerged victorious. According to galactic tradition, this demonstration will be considered when determining humanity's classification." Murmurs spread through the council. Species that had dismissed humans as primitives were now reconsidering. What other secrets did these strange creatures hide? Ho approached the speaker. "We came here seeking peaceful relations. Our victory in this duel does not change that goal. We have no desire for conquest or conflict." The speaker studied him carefully. "Your species breathes poison, consumes dead flesh, and treats mortal injuries as minor inconveniences. Your warrior defeated a commander through sheer refusal to die. And you speak of peace." Ho smiled. "That is exactly why we can speak of peace. We have nothing to prove. We have nothing to fear. We can afford to be peaceful because we know we can survive anything else." The logic was strange, but the speaker could not deny its truth. The session was adjourned. The human delegation was given guest quarters on Apex Prime while the council debated what to do with them. For the first time there was genuine uncertainty about the galactic hierarchy. In his quarters, Jin lay on a medical bed while finished treating his wounds. Nanorepair technology borrowed from the station was accelerating his healing, but he would still need days to fully recover. "You scared a lot of people today," told him. "I scared myself," Jin admitted. "There were moments when I thought I couldn't keep going, when my body was screaming at me to stop." "But you didn't stop." "No, because I knew that's what they expected. They expected me to fall down and stay down. They've never met anything that gets back up." Was quiet for a moment. "Do you think they'll leave us alone now?" Jin shook his head slowly. "No, I think we terrified them, and terrified people do stupid things." He was right, of course. Across the station, in a secure communication room, Lieutenant was already sending a report to the High Command. Her message was simple but urgent. "The humans are dangerous, more dangerous than any species we have encountered. They must be contained before they become a threat." In the halls of power decisions were being made, fleets were being mobilized, plans were being drawn. They had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years by eliminating anything that could challenge them. They would not allow some soft, small creatures from a Category 7 world to change that. War was coming. But the humans did not know this yet. They sat in their guest quarters, treated their wounds, and dreamed of peaceful exploration. They had won a great victory, but they did not understand what that victory would cost. Jin stared at the ceiling of his medical room and thought about the look in his eyes when the commander finally surrendered. It was not just defeat he had seen there. It was fear. And fear, Jin knew, made enemies more dangerous than ever. Lieutenant had served the Empire for 40 years. She had fought in 12 wars. She had helped conquer 6 worlds. She had never known fear until she watched Commander fall to his knees before a creature that should have been dead. Now she sat alone in her quarters on the Iron Claw, surrounded by screens filled with data about Earth and its inhabitants. The more she learned, the more afraid she became. "Computer," she said, "display information about human evolutionary history." The screens changed to show images and text. Read carefully, her yellow eyes growing wider with each paragraph. Humans had evolved on a planet that tried to kill them in countless ways. Ice ages that covered entire continents, volcanic eruptions that blocked out the sun, diseases that killed millions, predators that hunted them in the darkness. But that was not what frightened. What frightened her was what humans had done in response. They had survived the ice ages by wearing the skins of animals they killed. They had survived the eruptions by moving to new lands. They had survived the diseases by developing medicine and healing techniques, and the predators that hunted them. Humans had hunted them back. They had hunted them to extinction. Pulled up more data. Wolves. These were pack hunters, intelligent and deadly. Humans had encountered them thousands of years ago. Instead of avoiding them, instead of fighting them, humans had done something impossible. They had made wolves into friends. They domesticated apex predators, whispered to herself. They turned their enemies into allies. She looked at images of dogs sitting beside human children, the descendants of killers, now loyal companions. It made no sense. No species had ever done such a thing. But there was more. Humans regularly consumed substances that would poison other species. Alcohol, which destroyed brain cells. Caffeine, which overstimulated nervous systems. Capsaicin, which caused intense pain. They did not consume these things by accident. They consumed them for pleasure. Display human medical practices, ordered. The screens showed images that made her stomach turn. Humans cutting open their own bodies. Humans removing damaged organs and replacing them with organs from other humans. Humans deliberately stopping their own hearts and then restarting them. They called it surgery. They had been doing it for centuries. They considered it normal. Stood up and walked to the window of her quarters. Outside, the stars drifted slowly past. Somewhere out there was a small blue planet filled with creatures that should not exist. She pulled up one final set of data, human warfare. The information that appeared was the most disturbing of all. Humans had been fighting each other since the beginning of their recorded history. They had developed weapons of incredible destruction, weapons that could level cities in seconds, weapons that could poison entire regions for generations, weapons that could destroy their own planet multiple times over. And they had built these weapons. They had used some of them, and then somehow they had chosen not to destroy themselves. They had the power to end their own species. They had decided not to. They had looked into the abyss of total annihilation and stepped back from the edge. What kind of species did that? Thought about Commander's duel with the human warrior. Jin had been given many opportunities to kill. His strikes had been precise. His movements had been calculated. He could have targeted vital areas. He could have fought to destroy rather than to survive. But he had not. He had fought only to prove a point. When surrendered, Jin had accepted that surrender immediately. No finishing blow, no humiliation, just victory and then mercy. These creatures were not just dangerous. They were controlled dangerous. They knew exactly how much force to use and when to stop. That made them more terrifying than any mindless beast. Composed her report carefully. She included all the data she had gathered. The poison breathing, the flesh eating, the persistence hunting, the self-surgery, the weapons of mass destruction, the domesticated predators. She concluded with a simple recommendation. These humans must not be allowed to spread through the galaxy. They are too adaptable, too resilient, too dangerous. If we do not act now, they will become unstoppable. She sent the report to High Command and waited. The response came within hours. In a secure chamber deep beneath the surface of the War Council convened. 7 of the most powerful in the Empire sat around a black table shaped like a claw. At the head of the table sat the Supreme Commander, the oldest and strongest of them all. "We have all reviewed Lieutenant's report," the Supreme Commander said. His voice was deep and cold. "What are your thoughts?" "The humans are a threat," one council member said immediately. "They defeated in single combat. If word spreads, other species will begin to question our supremacy." "They are primitive," another argued. "Their technology is centuries behind ours. One fleet could destroy their entire civilization." "But can we destroy them completely?" a third asked. This report suggests they are remarkably hard to kill. What if some survive? What if they rebuild? In 1,000 years they could become our equals, or worse. The debate continued for hours. Some argued for diplomacy, some argued for waiting and watching, but most argued for immediate action. The Supreme Commander listened to all arguments. Finally, he raised his clawed hand for silence. The humans are not our equals, he said. Not yet, but they have potential that we cannot ignore. They defeated our champion through sheer endurance. They breathe poison and eat death. They survived a world that would kill most species. He stood, his massive form casting shadows across the chamber. We have ruled this galaxy for 3,000 years because we eliminate threats before they grow. We will not change that policy now. Send the fleet. The order was given. 40 warships began preparing for departure. Each ship was a weapon of immense destruction, crewed by the deadliest warriors in the known universe. Their destination was a small solar system on the edge of the galaxy. Their mission was simple: destroy Earth, kill all humans, end the threat before it could begin. Back on Apex Prime, the human delegation knew nothing of this. They had been given 3 days to rest and recover before the Council would announce their classification. Ho used this time to meet with representatives from other species. He discovered something interesting. Many species in the Council were not happy with dominance. They had been bullied and intimidated for centuries. They had watched other civilizations be destroyed for showing too much potential. An ambassador from a species called the approached Ho privately. They were small, fragile beings with large eyes and gentle voices. They had survived rule by being useful but never threatening. Captain Park, the ambassador said quietly, you should leave, return to your immediately. Ho frowned. Why? We were told to wait for the Council's decision. The Council's decision does not matter. They have already decided. They will never accept a species that can challenge them. They will find a reason to destroy you. The ambassador's large eyes were filled with genuine fear. Please, she begged, go home, warn your people. The fleet is probably already being prepared. Ho felt cold dread settle in his stomach. He thought about his family in Seoul, his mother, his father, his sister. They had no idea what was coming. He gathered his crew immediately. We need to leave, he said. Now they are going to attack Earth. How do you know? Asked. I don't know for certain, but I know enough. Jin's victory scared them. Scared species do stupid things. Jin was still recovering from his injuries, but he stood up from his bed. Then we fight. We can't fight their fleet with one ship, Wu Bin said. The Horizon doesn't even have weapons. No, Ho agreed, but we can warn Earth. We can give our people time to prepare. They moved quickly. Within the hour, the Horizon had detached from Apex Prime and was heading back toward human space. Behind them, they could see the Iron Claw and other ships beginning to mobilize. The race had begun. On the bridge of the Horizon, Ho watched the stars stretch into lines as they jumped to light speed. He did not know if they would arrive in time. He did not know if Earth could defend itself against a fleet. But he knew one thing. Humanity had survived everything their world had thrown at them. They had survived ice and fire, disease and war, predators and their own worst impulses. They would survive this too. They had to. The Horizon arrived at Earth 3 days ahead of the fleet. It was enough time. Barely. Ho stood before the United Nations General Assembly and told them everything. The Galactic Council, the duel, the coming invasion. Leaders from every nation on Earth listened in stunned silence. When he finished, there was chaos, arguments, accusations, panic. For 12 hours, humanity argued about what to do. Then something remarkable happened. Old enemies stopped fighting. Rivalries that had lasted centuries were put aside. Countries that had never agreed on anything suddenly agreed on this. Humanity would not die without a fight. Within 48 hours, every space-capable vessel on Earth was being retrofitted for combat. Scientists shared data freely across borders. Military leaders coordinated strategies. Factories that had made consumer products began making weapons. Admiral was placed in command of Earth's defense fleet. She was 62 years old, with gray hair and calm eyes that had seen 3 wars. She had never lost a battle. She did not intend to start now. The fleet she commanded was small, 15 vessels. Most were converted cargo ships and science vessels. Only 5 had been designed for combat. Against 40 warships, it seemed hopeless. But did not believe in hopeless. She gathered her captains in a secure bunker beneath Sol. Holographic displays showed the solar system, with the predicted arrival point of the fleet highlighted in red. "They will expect us to fight like them," said. "Direct confrontation, honor, strength against strength. We will not give them that." She pulled up tactical displays showing Earth's advantages: the asteroid belt, the gas giants, the moon's far side, 1,000 places to hide, to ambush, to strike and retreat. "We are smaller and weaker," continued, "so we will be smarter. We will fight dirty. We will make them bleed for every kilometer they advance." The captains nodded. They understood. This was not a war they could win through conventional means. They would have to be creative. They would have to be ruthless. Pilot One Shin sat in the briefing room with his squadron. He was young, only 26, but he had more flight hours than anyone in the fleet. His was Ghost because of his ability to disappear and reappear where enemies least expected. "We'll be running interference," his commander explained. "Hit-and-run attacks, keep their fighters busy while the larger ships maneuver." One smiled. "Sounds like fun." His wingman, a woman named Bora, shook her head. "You have a strange definition of fun." "Maybe, but would you rather be anywhere else?" Bora thought about it. "No, I suppose not." 3 days later, the fleet arrived. 40 warships emerged from light speed at the edge of the solar system. Commander stood on the bridge of the Iron Claw, once again leading the fleet. He had requested this command. He had something to prove. "Scan for human vessels," he ordered. The scans came back. Nothing, empty space. The humans were either hiding or had fled. "They are cowards," his tactical officer said. "They know they cannot win." Was not so sure. He remembered Jint's eyes. Those calm, determined eyes. Creatures with eyes like that did not run from fights. "Proceed with caution," he ordered. "Full sensor sweeps. Watch for ambushes." The fleet advanced toward Earth. They had crossed half the distance when the first attack came. 3 human vessels appeared from behind an asteroid. They fired missiles, dozens of them, and immediately retreated. The missiles were not powerful enough to destroy warships, but they damaged sensors. They disrupted shields. They forced the fleet to slow down and deal with the attack. By the time they responded, the human ships were gone. "Find them," commanded. The fleet spread out to search. That was their first mistake. One led his squadron through the asteroid belt like fish through water. His fighters were small and fast, designed for exactly this kind of terrain. The fighters were larger and more powerful, but they could not match his maneuverability. He emerged from cover behind a destroyer and fired all his weapons at its engine core. The shots did not destroy the ship, but they damaged the engines. The destroyer fell out of formation. "Ghost scores another hit," he reported over the radio. "Show off," Bora replied, but there was pride in her voice. The battle continued for hours. They could not pin down the human ships. Every time they thought they had cornered one, it would disappear and attack from somewhere else. The humans used the terrain like a weapon, hiding behind asteroids, diving into gas giant atmospheres, using moons as shields. They were stronger. They were more numerous, but they had never fought like this before. They had never faced an enemy that refused to stand and die honorably. By the end of the first day, 3 ships had been disabled. The humans had lost too. Admiral watched the battle from her command ship, the Defiance. She knew the numbers were still against them, but every hour they survived was another hour for Earth to prepare. "How long can we keep this up?" her executive officer asked. "As long as we have to," replied. "We are humans. Endurance is what we do." On the second day, they changed tactics. They stopped spreading out. They formed a tight formation and pushed directly toward Earth, ignoring the attacks on their flanks. Knew she could not stop them with hit-and-run tactics alone. She needed something bigger. "All ships," she broadcast, "prepare for Operation Sunrise." Operation Sunrise was desperate. It was dangerous. It might not work, but it was the best chance they had. The human fleet gathered near Mars. The fleet approached, confident that the humans had finally decided to face them directly. Almost smiled. Finally, these strange creatures would learn their place. Then the humans fired. Not at the ships, at Mars. Specifically, at a massive deposit of explosive gases that scientists had discovered decades ago. The deposit detonated, sending a wave of debris and radiation directly into the path of the fleet. It was not enough to destroy the ships, but it was enough to blind them. Their sensors went dark. Their shields were overwhelmed. And in that moment of confusion, the human fleet struck. One dove directly at the Iron Claw. His fighter was hit by defensive fire. Alarms screamed. His engine failed. He had seconds to make a decision. He aimed his crippled fighter at the Iron Claw's main engine and ejected at the last possible moment. The explosion tore through the flagship's propulsion system. The Iron Claw began to drift, powerless. On the bridge was thrown from his feet. Emergency lights flickered. Damage reports flooded in from every section. "What happened?" he demanded. "The human pilot crashed his ship into our engines," his officer reported, voice filled with disbelief. "He ejected moments before impact. He survived." Stared at the screen showing one's escape pod floating in space. The human had deliberately sacrificed his ship to cripple the flagship. These creatures were insane, absolutely insane. The battle raged for 3 days. The humans fought without rest, rotating crews, maintaining constant pressure. They used every trick, every trap, every dirty tactic they could imagine. On the third day, they broke. 26 of their 40 ships were destroyed or disabled. The survivors, including the crippled Iron Claw, retreated into deep space. Admiral stood on the bridge of the Defiance and watched them go. She was exhausted. Her fleet was battered. They had lost 8 ships and hundreds of lives. But they had won. She opened a channel to the entire fleet. "This is Admiral. They are retreating. I repeat, they are retreating. We have defended our home." Across the fleet, cheers erupted. Tired men and women hugged each other and cried with relief. In his hospital bed on the Defiance, one heard the announcement and smiled. His body was broken, burned, barely alive. But he was alive. Against all odds, he was still alive. A nurse approached his bed. "You're crazy, you know that." "I know," one replied, "but it worked." Far away, the retreating fleet sent a message back to there. The message was simple but devastating. "We have lost. The humans cannot be defeated. Recommend immediate peace negotiations." The galaxy was about to change forever.